What's good in the whole YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you guys another video. Today I'm bringing you guys a video on Power Rangers Beast Morphers episode 7. This episode is called A Friend Indeed, and this episode overall was really good. It was probably one of my favorite episodes so far for Beast Morphers. And I actually recorded this whole video and I forgot to turn on the audio, so yeah, I'm having to re-record it again, which really sucks, but what do you expect? So let me get started really quickly. This episode begins with us seeing that Blaze and Roxy are trying to are summoning a Robotron, and the Robotron is set to go after the Beast Boss this episode. So we end up learning about that. We end up seeing at the Rangers base that Devin and Ravi are training, and what happens is that we end up seeing that Smash is watching them, and he offers Ravi a blueberry drink, which Ravi doesn't want, but instead Devin ends up getting. And Ravi, doesn't really, thank him or appreciate the fact that he gives him this drink. So, Smash doesn't feel very happy, but at the same time, he understands that he's busy and things are hard sometimes. So what we do end up seeing as well is that eventually Devin ends up having Cruz come in, and Devin ends up asking Cruz, "Did you go the shortcut route?" And Cruz says, "No, I didn't go that route." And what happens is that Devin's like, "Well, you should have gone that route." And the thing is that there's more to the story there that we end up learning later. But what does end up happening is that Cruz ends up feeling bad that he didn't listen to him and all that, and he wants to help him out. He wants to feel like he's doing what he's supposed to do, and he forgets about it basically. So then what we end up seeing is that Devin ends up going off, and then Ravi ends up having Smash train with him. But what happens is that Smash ends up trying to be gentle with him, not really trying to really fight him, and Ravi really wants to have a training partner that can actually fight with him, and he doesn't really do it. So we end up seeing that. We also see that Zoe is looking for Jax, and she ends up asking Nate if he's seen Jax, and what happens is that Jax comes in and she's expecting some office supplies, but instead what comes is some party supplies. And the thing is that Zoe feels annoyed that he messed up, but Jax feels like, I'm sorry, I meant to give you the right thing. And again, all of them are not feeling like they're necessarily appreciated, but they do understand that things are stressful, and that's why they may give them attitude sometimes. But what does end up happening is that the Rangers end up finding out from Nate that they're going to do some training with their new weapons, which is the Beast X Blaster. We end up seeing a hologram that they have to fight against, which is actually Nate inside of it, and they end up dealing with it. But what happens is that the Robotron ends up appearing with the Tronics. We don't see the Robotron, but we do see the Tronics fighting against the Rangers, which the Rangers do end up morphing. But at the same time, their Beast Bots are actually cheering for the Rangers, while the Robotron ends up stealing the memory disk from Cruz and Smash, and he tries to steal it from Jax, but Zoe ends up actually stopping the Robotron from stealing Jax's disc, so Jax is unaffected by the Robotron. And these discs are memory discs that actually have their personalities inside of them. So what happens is that the Beast Bots end up being rebooted, and they end up losing their memories, except for Jax, which Jax still has his memories and his personality. So what happens is that at that point the Rangers return back to the base, and what they end up finding out is that their Beast Bots have lost their memories, and they'll just listen to what the Ranger that they're supposed to listen to says, except for Jax, which Jax will just work the same way that he worked before. So what we do end up seeing is that Ravi and Devin are pretty happy about this, because that they actually felt that it'd be great to have it where they actually listened and they wouldn't question us or would just obey us, And so what happens is that we end up seeing that Devin and Ravi try to take advantage of this. Devin ends up trying to make Cruz go down the shortcut that he wanted to go down, and what happens is that he actually gets covered in mud. Well, Ravi wants Smash to go up against him in a training battle, and he says to not hold back, and even if Ravi's not ready, to go and try to fight against him. And what happens is Smash ends up punching him really hard without Ravi being ready, and he gets knocked back against the wall. And what happens is that Ravi's like, "Why'd you do that?" And he said, "Well, you said to punch you even if you weren't ready." And Ravi's like, "Well, next time don't do that." And he's like making a mental note in his head that he shouldn't do that. So what does end up happening is the Rangers end up learning that, things, it's not so great having things the way they are. And what we end up seeing is that Zoe is looking for Jax because she wants to know where her tablet is, and Jax ends up telling Zoe that it should be in the lab. And what happens is that Zoe's like, no, it's not in the lab. And she says, well, can I go in this room where you were? And he's like, no, you can't. I mean, like, he doesn't really give a real answer. And what happens is that Zoe's like, do you know what the password is to the room? And Jax like basically acts like he forgets about it. And the reason why is because he's hiding something from her that he doesn't want her to know right away. So what we end up seeing is that from here, she ends up going into the room where the lab is, and she's still looking for her tablet, which she ends up finding it. And the thing is that Zoe feels like, she wishes that her B-Spot, they didn't have them at all, and all of them kind of feel that, but Jax comes in, and she feels really embarrassed and feels bad because she said that in front of him, basically, and, he feels low when he hears this. And what happens is that apparently her tablet was there, it was just underneath her jacket, and she feels really bad about this. So then what happens is that she ends up going after Jax, and she ends up entering into the room that Jax didn't want her to go into originally, and it was the room where they were actually going to throw a party for the Rangers, saying thank you, Rangers. And the thing was that it was going to be a big celebration, and that's why the B-Spots weren't responding the way that the Rangers wanted them to. Like, for example, Cruz, the reason why it took him so long to get to Devin was because he was trying to help with the party. Smash ended up actually punching Ravi with some cake frosting, and that ruined his new shirt, and he felt so bad about it. And the thing was that that's because he had actually helped with the cake, and when it came to Jax with the party supplies, the reason why he gave Zoe party supplies was because he actually brought the wrong bag to her. He meant to actually give her the office supplies, but instead he ended up giving her the party supplies that was supposed to be for their party. So that's something to note. But what happens is that they then end up trying to get back the B-Spot's memory discs. And so what happens is that they end up having Jax as bait, and then Zoe ends up rescuing Jax again from the Rotron that tries to take his memory disk, and actually manages to get back the 2 memory disks that they lost for Cruz and Smash, and they end up restoring Smash and Cruz's memories and their personalities, which is really good. From there, we end up seeing that the Skruzzle ends up summoning another Gigatron with some helper, smaller Gigatron units that fight as well, and the Rangers end up summoning their Beast X Megazord to go up against the Gigadrone. So that's really good. What we do end up seeing as well is that the Rangers end up dealing with that. They manage to defeat the Gigadrone, and the reason why also that they wanted the memory disk in the first place was because if they got the memory disk, they would be able to use the Rangers Megazord. So that's why they were trying to steal them in the first place. I forgot to mention that. Now, as far as things go from here, the Rangers end up defeating the Gigadrone. They end up telling the B-Spots to come to the location where the party was supposed to originally be for the Rangers. And what happens is that the Rangers end up surprising the B-Spots with their own surprise party, which is the same one pretty much, but it's just centered around them, and it says, thank you, B-Spots, you're our best friends. And so the Rangers are, feel like they deserve to do this to the B-Spots because the B-Spots do so much for them, and the B-Spots feel so taken aback and so happy about it. And what we end up having is that at one point, Nate comes in and Nate asks, have you guys seen Ben and Betty? And what happens is that I believe it was Smash that comes over to the table where the cake is. He ends up like knocking on the table, and at that point Ben and Betty jump out of the cake and they say, surprise, we've been sitting in here and what we end up learning is that they've been sitting in there for a while waiting for the surprise party so that they can come out and surprise them, and they've been eating cake the entire time. So happy, joyous moment. From there, we end up seeing that at the end of the episode that Skruzzle is working with Centronics to work on developing the Cybergate, which will be used to bring Evox into the real world. And that's a big deal because it's been his secret plan for a while to actually do that now. And we do end up seeing this episode 2 times, foreshadowing of the Silver Ranger, or Jay. We end up seeing at the end of the episode that on the trolley cart that they ended up stealing from the Rangers' special ops base, that his helmet's still there and it's being brought to a special location. At the same time, we end up seeing early in the episode that Nate mentions that, you know, the Rangers should feel more appreciative about their B-spots because, again, I would love to have a brother and I never really have one, and, you know, having someone like these characters is important. I forgot to also mention that as far as what the B-spots were doing specifically, the way that they describe them is that Smash was being very motherly, Cruz was being forgetful, and Jax was messing up. Those were the 3 main issues. I meant to specify those before, but I actually did this review twice, so I know I forgot some certain points, so I'm just trying to cover those now. But that's about it. Pretty good. I'm looking forward to next week's episode because next week's episode will be the final episode potentially for the spring season. This episode will lead to Skrulls trying to bring Evox into the real world with the Cybergate. That's confirmed already. We do not know if it will happen that episode, but we do know it should happen. If not that episode, sometime in the fall for sure. That we'll finally get to see Evox. Now, as far as things go in general, whether or not I'm expecting the hiatus to happen after next week, it's possible, and people, you know, typically it's been that way, that like 8 episodes and then hiatus. I'm still thinking that's going to be 8 episodes. Some people are saying that they think with Hasbro taking over that they may have found a way to actually convince Nickelodeon to extend it so that there's less of a hiatus this year. I'm not convinced that yet. And again, we'll know for sure next week because typically when it comes to listings for the month of May, we tend to know things by the end of each month for the following month. So by next week, we should know whether or not there'll be a new episode. New episodes at all in May. We know for sure though that during the first weekend of May, that Saturday there won't be any new episode for like most of any shows except for SpongeBob. The reason why is because that Saturday will be a major SpongeBob marathon. Like they tend to do a lot of SpongeBob marathons, but yes, it's gonna be a SpongeBob marathon that they're gonna do most of the day, and so essentially what's assumed is that they won't do anything. So it could just be a break week, or like where there's just one episode and or there's 1 week where there's no episode, similar to how there was the Kids' Choice Awards week where there was no episode. But my guesses are personally that episode 8 will be the break point hiatus period where we're going to start to have no episodes until sometime in August or even September possibly. Again, we'll have to wait and see, but that's my speculation right now. Otherwise, that's about it for me, guys. Please tell, I would love to know your guys' opinions about all this and more. Are you guys looking forward to seeing next week's episode? Are you enjoying the show so far? What did you think of this episode? When do you think the Gold and Silver Rangers will be introduced in the show? Please remember to leave your comments below, and I'd love to know your guys' opinions about all that and more. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and goodbye, guys.